The cardboard box felt heavy in Amelia's arms as security escorted her from the gleaming headquarters of Hudson Financial Group. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of everyone who'd just witnessed her humiliating termination after 7 years of dedicated service. Her crime, questioning the ethical implications of a high-risk investment strategy that could potentially bankrupt thousands of clients. The senior partner had called it insubordination. She called it conscience. If this story has made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back. Comment, and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. Rain pounded against the glass canopy of the Manhattan skyscraper as Amelia stepped outside. Perfect. Even the weather was conspiring against her. With no umbrella and her personal financial emergency fund, nearly depleted from helping her younger brother with his student loan debt consolidation, she had no choice but to make a run for the subway station 3 blocks away. By the time she reached the entrance, her designer blazer was soaked through, clinging uncomfortably to her skin. The blazer, an investment piece she'd purchased to project the image of success, now seemed like a cruel joke. What good was looking successful when her career lay in shambles? Her thoughts drifted to her mortgage payment due next week, and the checkup appointment she'd scheduled at that premium health clinic. Without her executive health insurance, she'd have to cancel. The subway car was mercifully empty as Amelia collapsed onto a seat, her cardboard box of personal belongings balanced precariously on her lap. She leaned her head against the window, watching the underground tunnels blur past. At 38, she had believed she was on track for financial freedom and early retirement. Now, she was just another unemployed financial advisor in a city overflowing with them. 40 minutes and one transfer later, Amelia emerged from the subway in Brooklyn. The rain had stopped, but the evening air felt heavy with humidity. Her apartment building, a modest structure in a neighborhood that was slowly undergoing gentrification, stood just a block away. As she approached, she noticed an elderly man with stooped shoulders sweeping the sidewalk in front of the entrance. "Evening," he nodded, his voice surprisingly deep and melodic for someone who appeared to be in his 80s. He wore a worn custodial uniform and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. "Evening," Amelia responded automatically, hardly looking at him as she fumbled for her keys. The security door was perpetually broken, another item on the landlord's never-ending to-fix list. The elderly janitor stepped forward and pulled it open for her. "Tough day?" he asked, gesturing to her box of belongings. Something about his warm brown eyes made Amelia pause. "You could say that," she admitted. "I just lost my job." The old man nodded sympathetically. Sometimes losing something is just the universe's way of making space for something better. Amelia forced a smile. Platitudes from the building's new janitor weren't going to pay her mortgage or restore her career path to financial independence. "Right. Thanks." In her apartment, Amelia dropped the box on her kitchen counter and peeled off her wet clothes. After a hot shower and changing into comfortable sweats, she opened her laptop and began the soul-crushing process of updating her digital resume and LinkedIn profile. Her smartphone buzzed with a text from her brother. "How was your big presentation today? Did they love it?" Amelia stared at the message, her throat tightening. How could she tell him that not only had she not given her presentation on ethical investing strategies, but she'd been escorted from the building for challenging the company's newest high-risk investment product? The same brother who'd just started his own digital marketing startup after she'd helped him navigate his student loan refinancing options. Sleep eluded her that night. Amelia tossed and turned, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Without her 6-figure income, how long could she maintain her lifestyle? 3 months? 4? Her personal brand as a successful financial consultant would take a massive hit. Who would trust financial advice from someone who couldn't even keep her own job? Morning arrived with harsh sunlight streaming through blinds she'd forgotten to close. Amelia dragged herself out of bed and made coffee, then opened her laptop to begin applying for jobs. But first, she needed to check her investment portfolio, ironically managed by her former employer. What she saw made her stomach drop. The market had responded badly to yesterday's Federal Reserve announcement, and her carefully curated investments had taken a significant hit. A knock at her door startled her. Who would be visiting at 8 in the morning? Through the peephole, she saw the elderly janitor from yesterday, now dressed in casual clothes rather than his work uniform. Confused, Amelia opened the door. "Can I help you?" The old man smiled. "Actually, I think I can help you. I heard what you said yesterday about losing your job. I have a proposition for you." Amelia raised an eyebrow skeptically. What could this elderly maintenance worker possibly offer her? "I need someone with financial expertise," he continued. "Someone who understands ethical investing and wealth management. Someone like you." "How do you know about my expertise in ethical investing?" Amelia asked, suddenly suspicious. The old man chuckled and removed his cap. Without it shadowing his face, his features came into sharper focus. Features that struck Amelia as oddly familiar. "I make it my business to know talented people," he said. "Especially those with the courage to stand by their convictions. May I come in? I promise this conversation could change your life." Against her better judgment, but intrigued nonetheless, Amelia stepped aside to let him enter. The elderly man walked with a slight shuffle into Amelia's apartment, his eyes scanning her modest living space with interest rather than judgment. The morning light caught his face as he turned, and Amelia felt that nagging sense of recognition again. Where had she seen him before? "Nice place," he commented, settling himself onto her couch without waiting for an invitation. "Good investment. Property in this area is appreciating rapidly." Amelia crossed her arms. "You didn't come here to discuss my real estate choices. Who are you exactly? And what's this proposition?" The man smiled, revealing a perfect set of teeth that seemed incongruous with his otherwise aged appearance. "My name is Robert Johnson, though most people who recognize me know me by another name." He reached for the zipper of his track jacket and slowly pulled it down. Underneath, he wore a simple white t-shirt. But it wasn't the shirt that caught Amelia's attention. It was the distinctive gold medallion hanging from a chain around his neck. A boxing glove. Suddenly, it clicked. You can't be—" Amelia stammered, her professional composure crumbling. The man's eyes twinkled. "Muhammad Ali." "Yes, ma'am." Amelia sank into the chair opposite him, her mind racing. But Muhammad Ali passed away years ago. 7 years ago, to be exact, he confirmed. June 3rd, 2016. "Then you're his brother? No? A look-alike? No?" He leaned forward. "The truth is more complicated. I'm not claiming to be the champion resurrected. I'm something different." Amelia's heart raced. Was this man mentally ill? A con artist? She reached discreetly for her phone. "You don't need to call anyone," he said gently. "I know how this sounds, but I promise, I'm not here to harm you. I'm here because I need your financial expertise, and you need a new direction. Even if I believed you were somehow connected to Muhammad Ali, which I don't, what could you possibly need from me?" Amelia asked, keeping her voice steady despite her growing unease. The man, Robert, or whoever he was, reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek smartphone, much newer and more expensive than Amelia would have expected from someone she'd assumed was a janitor. He tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward her. On the screen was a banking app displaying an account balance that made Amelia's eyes widen. 8 figures. The name on the account, the Muhammad Ali Foundation for Children's Health Care. "This is just one of 17 accounts," he explained. Ali left behind more than his legacy in the ring. He established several charitable foundations, some public, some private. I'm the executor of his estate's charitable arm, and we need someone with both financial acumen and ethical backbone to help manage these funds. Someone who would risk their job at a prestigious firm rather than compromise their principles. Amelia stared at the phone, then back at the man's face. The resemblance to the legendary boxer was uncanny now that she was really looking. But it wasn't identical. This man was thinner, with slightly different features. A cousin, perhaps? Or was this an elaborate scam? I can see you're skeptical, he said, taking the phone back. Smart? You should be. In the financial world, if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But I'm offering you a chance to manage funds that actually help people. Premium health care for children who can't afford it, educational scholarships, housing assistance for families affected by illness. He stood and walked to her window, looking out at the Brooklyn street below. Do you know what Ali said about service? Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on Earth. I believe that. And I think you do too. Amelia found herself wanting to believe him, despite her professional caution. Let's say for a moment I'm interested. What exactly would this job entail? You'd work directly with me and a small team of medical professionals, educational consultants, and social workers. Your role would be managing the Foundation's investment portfolio to ensure maximum sustainable returns while adhering to strict ethical guidelines. No predatory investments, no exploitative practices. He turned back to face her. The salary is $700,000 annually, with performance bonuses tied not to profit margins, but to impact metrics. How many children received life-saving treatments? How many families were kept from medical bankruptcy? How many students completed their education debt-free? Amelia's breath caught in her throat. The figure was substantially more than she'd been making at Hudson Financial. This sounds incredible, she admitted, but also hard to verify. I'd need to do my due diligence before considering something like this. Robert smiled. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. That's exactly why I'm here, because you're the type of person who does their homework. He handed her a business card. This has my private number. Call me when you've checked me out thoroughly. I suggest starting with Dr. Eliza Chen at Memorial Sloan Kettering's Pediatric Oncology Department. She can verify our foundation's work. Amelia took the card, her financial advisor's mind already calculating the probability that this was legitimate versus some elaborate fraud. One more thing, Robert said, heading toward her door. Bryke, if you decide to come on board, your first project would involve establishing a partnership with a cutting-edge artificial intelligence company developing predictive algorithms for early cancer detection. The potential return on investment isn't just financial, it's measured in lives saved. After he left, Amelia sat staring at the business card in her hand. The logo was subtle but unmistakable, a butterfly and a bee, symbols associated with Muhammad Ali's famous quote about floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. She reached for her laptop, determined to uncover the truth. If this was a scam, she'd find out. And if it wasn't, well, that would be a very different story. The next 48 hours were a blur of intensive research, phone calls, and growing astonishment. Amelia had always prided herself on her thorough due diligence, a skill that had served her well in the financial sector. Now, she applied that same methodical approach to investigating Robert Johnson and his connection to Muhammad Ali's legacy. Her first call was to Dr. Eliza Chen at Memorial Sloan Kettering. After navigating through several administrative assistants, Amelia finally reached the renowned pediatric oncologist. The Ali Foundation? Doctor. Chen's voice immediately warmed when Amelia mentioned the organization. They're extraordinary. Their funding has allowed us to provide specialized treatment to 37 children this year alone, who otherwise wouldn't have qualified for our experimental protocols due to insurance limitations. And you work with a Robert Johnson? Amelia pressed. Yes, he's the primary liaison. Fascinating man. He has Ali's presence, doesn't he? The family resemblance is remarkable. Family resemblance, so he wasn't claiming to be Ali himself to everyone. That was somewhat reassuring. Next, Amelia contacted the law firm listed on the Foundation's tax filings, Goldstein, Myers and Associates, a prestigious outfit specializing in estate planning and charitable trusts. After verifying her identity and explaining her potential involvement with the Foundation, she was transferred to a senior partner. Ms. Peterson, I can confirm that the Muhammad Ali Foundation for Children's Healthcare is a legitimate organization with considerable assets under management, the lawyer explained. While I cannot disclose specific financial details without proper authorization, I can tell you that the foundation is in excellent standing and fully compliant with all regulatory requirements. And Robert Johnson's role? Amelia asked. Mr. Johnson serves as the foundation's executive director and has full signatory authority as designated by the Ali Family Trust. Beyond that, I'm afraid client confidentiality prevents me from sharing more. Each verification led to another. By the evening of the second day, Amelia had confirmed through multiple sources that the foundation was legitimate, well-funded, and making a significant impact in children's healthcare access. She'd also discovered that Robert Johnson maintained an extremely low profile. There were almost no photographs of him online, and the few mentions in press releases described him simply as a close family associate of the late Muhammad Ali. On the morning of the third day, Amelia found herself standing outside a nondescript office building in downtown Brooklyn. The address on Robert's business card had led her here, to a converted warehouse with no external signage indicating what businesses operated inside. Only a small intercom panel beside the entrance provided any clue that the building was occupied. Amelia pressed the button labeled MAF. "Yes," came a woman's voice through the speaker. "Amelia Peterson to see Robert Johnson." There was a pause, then a buzz as the door unlocked. "Sixth floor, end of the hall." The elevator ride gave Amelia time to collect her thoughts. Her research had convinced her that the foundation was legitimate, but questions remained about Robert himself. The resemblance to Ali was uncanny, yet she couldn't find any official record connecting him to the Ali family. Who was he really? The elevator opened directly into a spacious reception area decorated with black and white photographs of Muhammad Ali. In the ring, with world leaders, visiting children in hospitals. Behind a sleek desk sat an elegantly dressed woman in her 60s. "Ms. Peterson," she greeted warmly. "Mr. Johnson is expecting you." "I'm Grace Williams, Operations Director for the Foundation." She led Amelia through a set of glass doors into an open-plan office where about a dozen people worked at modern workstations. The space was bright and airy, with more photos of Ali adorning the walls alongside children's artwork, clearly from beneficiaries of the Foundation's programs. Grace stopped at a door at the far end of the office. "He's waiting for you." Robert Johnson's office was surprisingly modest given the Foundation's resources. A simple desk, comfortable but not ostentatious furniture, and a wall of books. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the Brooklyn Bridge and Manhattan skyline beyond. Robert himself stood looking out these windows, hands clasped behind his back. He turned as Amelia entered. "You came," he said simply. "That means you did your homework and found enough to convince you this isn't a scam." Amelia nodded. "The Foundation checks out. But you're still a mystery." Robert gestured for her to take a seat in one of the chairs facing his desk. "What do you want to know?" "The truth," Amelia said firmly. "Who are you really? Your connection to Muhammad Ali?" Robert sat across from her and was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "I was born Rahman Ali Johnson. My mother was Muhammad Ali's cousin. I grew up idolizing him, not just for his boxing, but for his principles. When I was 19, he took me under his wing. I became part of his entourage, then his business team. As his health declined, he entrusted me with continuing his charitable work." He paused, then added, "I've had extensive cosmetic surgery over the years. A car accident in my 30s left me with facial injuries, and when the surgeons were reconstructing my face, I requested they make me resemble him more closely. It helps with fundraising. Donors feel a connection to Ali through me. Is it somewhat deceptive? Perhaps. But it serves the greater good of the Foundation's mission." Amelia studied him, weighing his words. The explanation was plausible, if unusual. "Why approach me specifically?" "There are thousands of financial advisors in New York." "I've been watching you for months," Robert admitted. "After your presentation at the Ethical Investment Conference last fall, I had our team investigate your work. Your proposal for healthcare investment strategies that prioritize patient outcomes over pharmaceutical profits particularly impressed me." Amelia remembered that conference. She'd received polite applause but little serious interest from the industry leaders present. To learn that someone had not only paid attention but investigated her professional history was both flattering and slightly unnerving. "So you've been, what, stalking me?" Robert smiled. "Vetting you. Just as thoroughly as you've been vetting me these past 2 days. And when I learned you'd been terminated for standing up for your principles, I knew the timing was right." He opened a drawer in his desk and removed a folder, which he slid across to her. "This is our formal offer. Take it home, review it with your attorney if you wish, but I hope you'll accept. We need someone like you, someone who understands that true wealth lies not in bank balances but in the lives we improve." Amelia picked up the folder. "I'll consider it. That's all I ask," Robert replied. "Oh, and Amelia, the janitor uniform. That wasn't just for show. I clean the offices here twice a week. Allie taught me that no work is beneath a person who understands their true worth. I suggest you remember that lesson, regardless of whether you join us." As Amelia left the building, the weight of the offer folder in her hand felt like both an opportunity and a responsibility. She had much to consider. 6 months later, Amelia stood in the pediatric ward of Brooklyn Methodist Hospital, watching through a glass partition as 7-year-old Zoe Matthews underwent her final immunotherapy treatment. The revolutionary protocol, funded entirely by the Muhammad Ali Foundation, had successfully sent her aggressive leukemia into remission after conventional treatments had failed. "Her latest blood work is excellent," Dr. Ramos, the attending physician, explained as he showed Amelia the charts on his tablet. The personalized antibody treatment targeted her specific cancer markers with minimal side effects. Without this program, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Without the Foundation's private funding for experimental treatments not covered by standard health insurance, Zoe would likely not have survived. "Her family's medical debt consolidation is complete as well," Amelia added. "They'll go home not just with a healthy daughter, but without the financial burden that crushes so many families after a health crisis." Dr. Ramos nodded appreciatively. "Your debt forgiveness program is as life-saving as our medical treatments. What good is curing a child if their family is destroyed by medical bankruptcy?" This was the aspect of her new role that gave Amelia the most satisfaction. Beyond managing the Foundation's substantial investment portfolio, which she'd already restructured to increase returns while maintaining strict ethical standards, she'd created a subsidiary program that purchased and forgave medical debt for families of children with catastrophic illnesses. Her smartphone buzzed with a calendar notification. The board meeting would start in 30 minutes, and she still needed to finalize her presentation on the Foundation's newest initiative, a partnership with an artificial intelligence startup developing algorithms to detect early signs of pediatric cancer from routine blood tests. If successful, the technology could revolutionize early intervention and dramatically improve survival rates. As Amelia gathered her materials and her phone rang, the screen displayed Robert Johnson. "I'm just heading to the boardroom," she answered. "Is there a problem?" "No problem," Robert's distinctive voice replied. "But a change of plans. The meeting will be at the main office instead. And Amelia, wear something camera ready. We'll have press." The press announcement wasn't on her schedule. "What's happening?" "Big news. I'll explain when you get here." 45 minutes later, Amelia strode into the Foundation's headquarters to find it buzzing with activity. Staff hurried about with purpose. And in the conference room, she could see a professional camera crew setting up equipment. Grace Williams intercepted her in the hallway. "Thank goodness you're here. Robert's in his office with the legal team. He wants you there immediately." Robert's office door was closed, unusual for a man who prided himself on maintaining an open-door policy. When Amelia knocked and entered, she found him sitting behind his desk with 2 attorneys and a woman she didn't recognize. "Amelia," Robert greeted her warmly. "Meet Sandra Ali Thompson, Muhammad Ali's daughter." The elegant woman rose and extended her hand. "So you're the financial wizard Robert's been raving about." "Pleasure to finally meet you." Amelia shook her hand, momentarily starstruck. "The pleasure's mine. I had no idea you were visiting today." It's not just a visit, Robert explained. Sandra is here to make an announcement, one that will affect your work significantly. Sandra nodded. My family has been watching the Foundation's work under Robert's direction, and more recently, with your financial guidance. We're impressed, particularly with the new programs you've developed for families facing medical debt. One of the attorneys, a silver-haired man with an expensive suit, spoke up. What Ms. Allie Thompson is saying is that the family has decided to substantially increase their support. Robert smiled. They're doubling the endowment, Amelia. An additional $300 million, specifically earmarked for your medical debt forgiveness program and the AI diagnostic initiative. Amelia's mind raced with the possibilities such funding would open up. Nationwide expansion, partnerships with major research hospitals, a dedicated artificial intelligence research center focused exclusively on pediatric applications. That's incredible, she managed. There's more, Sandra continued. We want to take the foundation public, raise its profile, attract additional donors, create a sustainable funding model that will outlast all of us. That means media exposure, starting today. Robert stood and walked around his desk. Which is why I need to tell you something before we face those cameras, something I should have told you from the beginning. He gestured for the others to leave them alone. When the door closed, he turned to Amelia with an expression she couldn't quite read. 6 months ago, I told you I was Rahman Ali Johnson, Mohammed's cousin. That wasn't entirely accurate. Amelia felt a flutter of apprehension. What do you mean? Robert took a deep breath. My legal name is Robert Rahman Johnson. I was Muhammad Ali's sparring partner, then his business manager, then his closest friend. But I was never his blood relative. You lied to me. Amelia felt a cold disappointment spreading through her chest. Not about anything that matters, Robert insisted. Not about the foundation, its mission, or its finances. Only about my personal connection to Ali. Why? Because the truth is more complicated, and frankly, less believable. He sat on the edge of his desk. I was nobody, a street kid from Philadelphia with fast hands but not enough talent to make it as a boxer. Ali saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He gave me purpose, direction, responsibility. When he became ill, he made me promise to continue his charitable work, to be his hands in the world. Robert touched the medallion around his neck. The facial surgeries weren't because of a car accident. They were my choice, my way of honoring him, of keeping him present in the work. Some people find it strange, even disturbing. I didn't want that to color your decision to join us. Amelia processed this revelation. She should feel betrayed, manipulated. Yet strangely, she didn't. The work they'd done together over these 6 months had been real. The lives they'd changed, those were real too. So Sandra knows. Everything, Robert confirmed. The entire family knows and has supported my role. But the public story has always been that I'm a distant relative, for simplicity's sake. Now, with this expansion, we need complete transparency. We'll explain my actual relationship to Ali at the press conference. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Amelia studied the man before her. This complex individual who had dedicated his life to continuing another man's legacy. Was it strange? Yes. But was it wrong? She wasn't sure she could say it was. Does this change how you feel about the foundation? About working here? Robert asked, vulnerability evident in his voice. Amelia thought about Zoe Matthews and the dozens of other children whose lives had been saved. About the families freed from crushing medical debt, about the revolutionary AI diagnostic tools they were helping to develop. The work matters more than your personal story, she finally said. So as long as the mission remains pure, I'm still committed. Relief washed over Robert's face. Thank you. He stood and straightened his tie. Now, shall we go announce to the world that we're about to transform pediatric healthcare in America? As they walked toward the conference room where cameras and reporters waited, Amelia reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. 6 months ago, she'd been devastated by the loss of a job she thought defined her worth. Now she understood that true success wasn't measured by a prestigious title or executive health benefits, but by the impact of her work on real lives. The janitor had indeed revealed himself to be much more than he appeared, and in the process, he had helped Amelia discover that she, too, was capable of being much more than she had ever imagined. If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing. I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this really touched you, give back. Comment. Subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.